It's never good to report real bad news, though, is it? Because when you think about it, people do put their time and effort into a new project. And this is the now latest problem facing, of course, the former royal known as Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. But there's more to it than first meets the eye. As ever, let me explain. Morning, good to see you. Thank you so much for your time today. We'll have a lovely wave. You all right? By the way, I'm still getting some lovely comments about our recent matinee film, Strictly Scarlet. And what I liked about it was that, a lot of you remembered John Payne. And, as I said at the time, he was one of those actors that everybody knew, but he didn't seem to go up there, did he, with all the other biggies, And I'm not quite sure why, you see, because clearly he had everything going for him. He was tall. A lot of the ladies liked him. He sort of featured in all the fan magazines. What was it about John Payne that you'd like, ladies, if you remember going to see him at the movies? And why do you think he didn't quite, I know he had a terrible accident and he came back from that and all that sort of stuff, but he was super talented, clearly. Yes, do let me know. Be interesting to get your take on it, actually. Why do some still resonate and many years later others are sadly all but forgotten? Let's get back to this particular story. Some people might say this could be all but forgotten very soon, of course. It is the launch of Meghan Markle's cookery show on Netflix, which has now been pushed back to March the 4th. Now, this is very strange in many respects because according to a source, Meghan has now hit rock bottom. And this is simply because everything seemingly that she touches does sort of turn to dust. I don't mean that nastily, but the pearl thing never came off. The archetypes didn't, work, and then they got blasted by the Spotify team. The Invictus, Heart of Invictus, that didn't work. And then, of course, the Polo being another utter disaster. If you remember, Meghan at the time basically said, when they decided to Megxit, as that term was coinedly phrased, that they'd been followed around by bad luck. And she blamed basically their launch on the pandemic. I don't mean blame the pandemic, but you know what I mean? The fact that that took over the world and suddenly, everything that she'd planned alongside everybody else, we might point out, had to be put on hold and it never really truly recovered. Now, as you know, at the start of this year, only few days back now, Meghan very triumphantly took to the sand to write in 2025, basically signalling this was going to be her year. And very quickly we got the launch date and everything was all actions going. So what truly went wrong? Well, what's interesting, in fact, is that, the story goes that she advised Netflix that, she'd like to postpone it due to the terrible fire situation out in Los Angeles. But there also is another side to the story. And as ever, we have to say, allegedly, the traction on this wasn't looking good, So basically, they want Meghan to pull back and look at other options to try and resurrect and promote this show. And that was something that she didn't feel she needed to do before. But now, as one can imagine, she's having to rethink this because that launch is now in the past. And people will assume, has it been, has it gone, where are we at, that sort of stuff. So as I said to you previously, what's going to be interesting is this, on how they develop pushing forward. And more importantly, whether she will finally agree to doing sit downs on chat shows, breakfast TV sofas. She really now needs to actively get out there and do something to try and save what is literally teetering on the brink. And that is her own comeback. But of course, Netflix really, they're neither here nor there about whether this finally hits it, because consequently, after so far down the line, and this will be now coming up to virtually a year since this started filming, how up to date is this going to be? As ever, it's a developing story. When I know more, you'll know more. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.